Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. As I'm just starting out the new channel, Mud Flood Was Armageddon, building on Flat Earth Nation, I think sometimes it's good to just go into a review to get a backlog of videos. So here's what I believe, here's what I've been teaching, here's where the flat earth was when it was revealed to us that, hey, NASA's alive, the globe is alive, the Bible's true. you know you want to know, really, what's going on in the people that claim to be teachers' lives. Have they been, try to be consistent year in and year out? And so I was searching for Beach's pneumatic train, because I was talking with Tommy today about tunnels and different things like that. And he was watching videos about what's going on in the tunnels of Chicago and how ridiculous that story is. So I thought, as we have some time, as well just start with a refresher video about the beach tunnel. This looks like 9 years old, it says, but they very interesting. A little on the loud side. Yeah, so they did. They were going to dig it at night. And this hydraulic shield, let me pause this here for a second. I've talked about this a lot, and how they found one of these intact, and these young men get to it. This must have been someone like a college project or something like that. But they vibrated it loose, and I think this is how they were cleaning out tunnels. But we'll get into some of this more later. Just video. Tammany Hall, the mafia, even back in 1870, on this rewrite version of history. $650,000 was a lot of money back then, man. We're talking, this is the 1850s, 1860s. He started building this, they say, in 1870, a pneumatic train under the river to connect Manhattan. Here's a little background music. This seems kind of weird, huh? Come on, it's a little funny. That is their story. They're going to show, under Devlin's drugstore, hiding their work at night. Oh, yeah. See, this is like when it's like a silent movie melodrama, Simon Legree, the get the girl off the railroad tracks, Dudley Do Right. They're going to get cut in half with that log. Oh, no. It's just drama. All less than 7 minutes, too. Remember that John T. Hoffman works for Tweed here, Boss Tweed. So that program, they want their cut. Remember that this is the rewrite of history. This didn't really happen, but if it did happen, it would have been a melodrama, a complete craziness. I believe that was a silver panic. They caused the price of silver went down, or something big like that happened with making the United States capitalize. It was all crazy. You got ruined, man. Nobody needs your pneumatic train anymore, man. Gilded Age. Wow, his creation got forgotten for 40 years. 73 to 1912. Oh no, they accidentally said, hey, they dug it out. They show a very rare picture here. This is the one that started my search. It's like, what do you mean they found this accidentally? And so I that's how I started making videos about canals and tunnels was, in my world, the Lord called me to find out about the beach subway. I remember when they used to make, this is a 9-year-old video. Well, a little not, and that's how easy they used to include Movie Maker right with the software. You could make these videos and make them in black and white, and then they started charging you for it. So that's crazy. So we're going to be looking at some of that crazy stuff like that. Oh, is the microphone any better now, Bob? Is it stay good? Good. Because we're going to need because I don't know how much we're going to be listening to of the YouTube, but we do need some good thing here. So that was just when I was searching Alfred Beach Tunnel. See if they have anything that's any more serious here. I found that one way at the bottom. What's this one, man?
This video was made possible by Blue Apron. The first 50 people to sign up at the link in the
So
description.
all credit goes to Half As Interesting. Here we'll look at some of your still shots. Maybe that's how you do it. Tunnels and railroads. Whoa, look at that train track, man. That's how you get it done. That's pretty good. That's a Grand Central Station right there where they like to play tennis. Donald Trump does. They had a little ski park in there. This is Penn Station, I believe. That's an interesting picture. It looks like this looks like it's working right around the outside of an edge of a recently discovered reset world. This is a good picture. There you go. Right to that. What in the world? Hey, look. FDR was in a wheelchair. He didn't have a good polio thing, man. There he is. They say the whole world, nobody ever knew. They kept it secret because they didn't want the world to know. There's some more pictures of him. He could still swim. Look, I'm swimming, everybody. This has got secret tunnels in it too. Right there is how they dropped off the president to go to the Waldorf Astoria. It was pretty good because nobody knew he's in a wheelchair. They could keep it secret. Here you go. There's a United Nations General Assembly, and this is a tunnel video. That's the balloon thing. Yep. Balloons. These guys do not like you to show their videos at all. I reckon, built in 1844 by hand, the Atlantic Avenue Tunnel is officially the world's oldest subway tunnel, rediscovered in 1980 by Bob Diamond. The tunnel was recently in a state of excavation, though in 2009 the city closed it off, and it's never been seen again until these intrepid cave explorers
With me is Bob Diamond, who discovered the tunnel in 1981. Bob, the process of discovery was a bit of a treasure hunt. What happened?
It was treasure hunt and also blind luck. One day I happened to become aware of a book about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln that said the missing pages of John Wilkes Booth's diary were hidden in this unknown railway tunnel under Atlantic Avenue next to a steam locomotive that was lying on its side. And then I happened to go and find a newspaper article from 1911 that had some engineering drawings in it and some hints as to where to find the rest of them. And using this old map from the 19th century, I was able to locate the manhole cover, and then with the help of the Brooklyn Union Gas Company, get inside.
What happened when you opened that manhole cover?
Well, originally, when you picked up that manhole cover, there was just a 3-foot drop with dirt underneath. You had to crawl through a space 18 inches high and 70 feet long, and then break through a concrete wall 3 feet thick. And then a blast of cold air came out from the other side, just like in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
While our tour didn't unveil any ghosts, pirates, or the long-lost journal pages of Abraham Lincoln's assassin, is that John Wilkes Booth? This story isn't quite over. At the end of the tunnel is a wall, and behind that wall...
This makes me think of Scotty Slapshot hanging out there in the tunnels. He knows some of these crazy things, man. We've all seen these kind of things before, right? They're under everything. It looks like, was this Chicago? It looks like what's going on in Chicago. I'm not sure if this is New York. New York.
Hiding all the booty that they stole from ships in New York Harbor. And but they had a secret entranceway from their clubhouse in a bar on Atlantic Avenue into the tunnel, guarded by a pair of 7-foot Turks with scimitars.
And you never found any evidence of this when you discovered it?
No,
7-foot Turks with scimitars in 1870? Yao Ming don't hurt me.
No evidence of that, but you never know what's behind the wall at the other end of the tunnel. It could be an entranceway back there that we haven't seen yet. And another interesting story is when they were building the tunnel back in 1844, the railroad tried to make the sandhogs work on Sundays, so they shot the overseer in the head and buried him
Sandhogs ain't going to work on Sunday, man.
behind some of the stonework. And after that, they didn't have to work Sundays anymore.
So the ghost of the overseer could be lurking among these walls.
Could very well be. If you see a green ball of light floating around, that's...
Now, how bad were things getting? Did you see that? Cut the heart from the body. Something, the men drawing a box of Lucifer. What? Hey, man, this live research, sometimes you get like this. This is now PG-13.
Have to work Sundays anymore.
So the ghost of the overseer could be lurking among these walls.
Could very well be. If you see a green ball of light floating around, that's him looking for his head.
Okay, good to know. In the meantime, the far-fetched folklore is enough to bring hundreds of visitors down the manhole and into the tunnel each month for a glimpse of the past. We're back out into the light, just concluding our tour of the subterranean tomb of...
That's pretty cool. You guys think that one was cool? That was pretty cool. Unbelievable. Let's see what else they had about the beach tunnel on my this is like Alfred Beach Tunnel.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about beach pneumatic transit. Alfred Eli Beach was an inventor and co-owner of the magazine Scientific American. And he was a very curious and intelligent man. For example, in 1856, he invented a typewriter that actually created raised text that would help the blind be able to read. It was never produced commercially, but he secured a patent and it won him praise from his peers. So this was someone who had a lot of ideas and who wanted to make the world a better place.
Don't we all?
Lived in New York City, and day in and day out, he saw a growing problem: traffic congestion in Manhattan. And he figured he could do something about it. So he looked to existing pneumatic technology. Pneumatic meaning using wind or air or operated by air pressure.
Don't you kind of get the idea that these are college? This is how they must do part of their grades now. Because the boys did the one, the video. They just find an interesting topic there and try to get a grade.
Most of that technology dates back to ancient Greece, but in the 17th century and onwards, it was used in various experiments in various industries. You probably know it best as those bank tubes, like when you go through the bank drive-through, the stuff and it goes, that's pneumatic technology. Seeing this technology work in various ways inspired Beach on his quest to solve Manhattan traffic congestion. If pneumatic technology could be used in London, for example, to propel mail throughout the city underground, which was happening at that time, why not use it to propel people? So he got to work coming up with the design, and he put a working version of it on display in 1867 at the American Institute Fair at the 14th Street Armory, which no longer exists, but this is what that spot looks like today. This is where Beach's proof of concept was first put on display in 1867. It was a suspended 100-foot wooden tube with a 10-passenger car on wheels that was driven back and forth by a 100-horsepower fan. It was the talk of the town, with some 75,000 people riding it during its exhibition at the fair.
Wow, 75,000 people. That's a good proof of concept. Because 75,000 people rode on it and only half of them died. Oh, wait, I don't think any of them died. Oh, Boss Tweed alert.
Boss of New York City, already skimming cuts off sales of existing above-ground transportation in the city. Tweed did not want to grant Beach permission to build his subway system under the ground. Actually, Boss Tweed had his own ideas for an elevated train system in Manhattan.
No.
So
don't you think she should shake her fist for emphasis? Like, don't let Boss Tweed.
There would be a conflict of interest or a conflict of profits. So Beach had to change his approach a little bit. Beach proposed an underground pneumatic mail distribution system, a totally innocuous proposal, and he was granted permission. So it was under the guise of this mail distribution system that Beach and his workers actually began building what they wanted to build, which was a subway system for people.
There you go. See, the vibration from the shield loosens the dirt, and then they build the brick around it. That's how they reverse engineered it to figure out, because they did find the shield when it was rediscovered in 1910. And after 1,000 years, the rest of the dead lived again. Come on, I'm just playing with you.
It was completed in 58 days. It was about 20 feet below street level. It was an 8-foot wide, 300-foot long tunnel that ran from Warren Street east onto Broadway and down to Murray Street. Again, this was another proof of concept, just a one-block test. Beach did everything he could to make this an incredible experience for visitors. The waiting room or station was located in the second basement level of a store called Devlin's, which no longer exists. But there was
It's a Devlin's Pharmacy. Hey, wait a minute. Devlins. Devlins. I think they're somehow like maybe implied like deviled eggs or something. I don't know, but there's something there. Devlins.
Piano, a fountain, paintings. There was white brick everywhere. It opened to the public in February of 1870, and it was a huge success. Some 400,000 people wrote it during its first year at 25 cents a piece.
That's almost like $100.
Taking that huge success, Beach then submitted proposals to expand his coverage across Manhattan. But Boss Tweed, who was now enraged at having been deceived so, always refused, as did the other politicians who were in Tweed's pocket. It took a couple more years for Boss Tweed to finally lose his political foothold in New York, and it was after that that Beach finally received permission to build what he wanted to build, this incredible subway system under New York using pneumatic technology. But it was not to be. In 1873, a major stock market crash happened, and funding was lost, and Beach's hopes and dreams for this incredible subway system were dashed, this time forever. In 1899, contractors clearing out debris after a fire happened upon that tunnel, and they took photos so we can see what that looked like. Our present-day subway opened in 1904, and in 1912, when workers were constructing the BMT line, they happened upon the abandoned tunnel. And nobody knows what happened after that. It almost certainly got destroyed during continued construction, but that was the last time it was ever seen. And that is the story of Beach Pneumatic Transit, the subway system that could have been, and maybe should have been. I'm not saying that the technology is better per se, but can you imagine having fancy, beautiful, clean subway stations, white brick, rather than what we have now?
Priceless.
If you want to read more about this story, I'm including a link to my website below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys.
Wow. I would have to say, if I was going to give her a grade, I'd have to say I'd have to take off 3 points for the sound, but I'd have to give some extra credit points, 5 extra credit points for the editing, and 10 extra credit points for the graphics that were chosen. It was just so, we'll overall give her a grade of 114 or something. Somebody will work it out to where she'll have extra for her GPA, because that was killer. And what about that Boss Tweed? What a son of a gun, huh? Dirty dog.
I'm Dennis Daly with the story of another forgotten American. Back in a moment. Alfred Beach was the designer of an underground system of transportation that was the godfather of the New York City subway. His line opened just after the Civil War, featuring cylindrical cars pushed through tunnels by compressed air. The Beach pneumatic system was the first attempt to build an underground subway in New York. It failed, but an idea was born. I'm Dennis Daly.
Dennis Daly getting it done in 30 seconds. See, let's look at this. Here's what they said they found right here. Doesn't that look pretty suspicious? Hey, look what we found. Check it out. It's Beach's pneumatic train. And everybody went like, that's the coolest thing ever. Naturally, it's the coolest thing ever. This is a big picture. A lot of brickwork there. So he rediscovered it. There's, I think it's cool. Sure, man. Travel by tube. For over a century, pneumatic systems have transported small parcels, cash, and documents quickly and securely over short distances. You may have seen pneumatic tubes in supermarkets that provide change or send money from the till to a central depository. They're doing it in Europe for one reason. It's super cool. Whoa, that's cool.
Against other transactions into the system based on priority, send and receive priority. It gives it an aggregate score, and now this one's in line to take off.
You can give your scores anywhere between
Floor
115.
unit work.
What it's doing right now is transferring, going through a pressure phase back through the transfer unit to these particular transfer units. If I have a failure anywhere here, I can locate that failure and go to that transfer unit or the state.
Once again, duct tape can fix almost anything. Man, that was a good one, and I just messed it up.
And fix it right away.
I got duct tape on it. See?
The system sends specimens to the lab for diagnosis. It sends meds from the pharmacy out to all the various units. It sends blood for transfusions, blood for surgeries. We send a lot of critical items through the system here at Stanford. And
Right. Did you send the blood through the pneumatic system? I sure did, boss. Is it the right one? Computer said it was. Good deal. We got it figured out. We were looking for some more beach stuff, like, right? That was a good one. Look at this one. It's even better, huh? It's a new post office. See? Got the new post office and proposed Broadway Underground Railway. Not sure. That doesn't look pneumatic to me. So this is the bottom one. They probably use this as the entrance right now. See, because that's got the pediment. I guess everything's underground. You know, not that it matters. How do they make those sharp corners on the pneumatic line? You got this big blower here. No problem, man. Just shoots you right around the corner. So this probably is just rewritten too. Because they never spell courthouse wrong in the articles. They just spell it wrong outside on the courthouse wall where it says COVRT house. Like they didn't know whether it was a V or a U. That just happened, people. So, people wonder, what is this all about? What's going on here? Whenever it gets that serious and it's like, wow, what's going on here? What can we do? Go to remember what it's all about. So going on the record with the tunnels and things like that, just want to go on record with what's it all about. So let's remember, like Paul was encouraging them to remember what it's all about in the book of Colossians, chapter 1. We're going to start at verse 9. And so from the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you, asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding. Let me get a drink here before I hit that. This is a pretty important part here. I don't want to. This is how you used to have to prove you were not a robot before you could just click on it and go, I'm not a robot. You know, you had to be able to, you know, sometimes you needed to lubricate your own throat with some coffee. We're going to pick it up at verse 10. So as to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, bearing fruit in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened with all power, according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified you to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. He has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything he might be preeminent. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. And he's, you know, he was talking to them, but also the Bible was written so that whoever gets their hands on it can learn from it. Because indeed, Satan is loosed in our times, and we had best heed the words of the people who seems like they made it by trusting the scripture. And we should do the same thing. So we're going to continue in verse 21 of 1 Colossians. And you who once were alienated and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds, he has now reconciled in his body of flesh by his death, in order to present you holy and blameless and above reproach before him, if indeed you continue in the faith, stable and steadfast, not shifting from the hope of the gospel that you heard, which has been proclaimed in all creation under heaven, and of which I, Paul, became a minister. So, amen. Because no matter what we're going through now, they continue in verse 24 that in their time, and when Satan's loosed, a lot of bad things are happening. So we have to beware of how and why is Satan going to try a new attack, because he will. He's going to. I know a lot of football teams think they're relentless, but persistent is, and plus, a lot of times our spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So with that in mind, let's continue. Colossians 1, verse 24. Now I rejoice in my sufferings for your sake, and in my flesh I am filling up what is lacking in Christ's affliction for the sake of his body, that is the church, of which I became a minister according to the stewardship from God that was given to me for you, to make the word of God fully known. The mystery hidden for ages and generations, but now revealed to his saints. To them God chose to make known how great among the Gentiles are the riches of the glory of this mystery, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Him we proclaim, warning everyone and teaching everyone with all wisdom, that we may present everyone mature in Christ. For this I toil, struggling with all his energy that he powerfully works within me. Well, I think that's cool. And we'll leave this up because I want to get through some of these, close out these tabs that I had open for research, and with the extra time, go over some more Bible, some more pictures too. So once again, I'm there like, remember, slide this over here, how I was going to be like, hey, look at the islands that Paul stopped at, the star forts on his way to Rome. And so was, doing that and studying that. And I'm there like, well, I better take a look at that Patmos where the Apostle John was. And sure enough, so I typed in the Patmos, and that sure looks like a star fort right there, doesn't it? Looks like that's the island that John the Beloved was at. So Patmos looked like a star fort. That looked like a star fort. I mean, that's pretty small. I didn't even see it on that map, right here on that one, but looks like this all was a star fort, but now they just got this little remnant left here. I can see there's that mountain right here. Nope, they don't make it too big. Oh, they're a little closer. So it's probably the prison that John was in or something like that is what their contention is. But things aren't, they aren't always what they seem in history when they're showing you this stuff, they're not. They're always trying to pull a fast one. That must be where they're saying is. Look at that's where John was. John the Apostle. Patmos. They're the Dodecanese, a group of 15 larger plus 150 smaller Greek islands. I wonder if that's a Dodecanese. 12 islands. Probably going to have a fight over those, Oh, maybe that's where the Doric see the capital, the plain, no embellishment, certainly not a Corinthian capital, just a plain. So that was the beginning of the reset or something, because that's their open G in music. It's their basic note, but not much. Colossal Rhodes got thrown in there for Patmos somehow. Oh, there's another picture of the castle. The Grand Knights of the Rhodes. That's one of those islands. Patmos is a small prison island from this star fort chain. They all lived in these cities. They didn't really build them. They just lived in them. And it seemed like during the golden age, they could, take care of them better than we can now. See that Moorish influence there? Put a World War II cemetery on their front yard and see how they like them apples. Oh yeah, see, that's definitely a star fort turnout. That's one of those hard walls to attack the fort from, especially back in the day when the cannons were going like, we're so heavy. There's their local food if you want to go there. So that was Patmos. Rhodes somehow got involved in this, so it's the largest of those Dodecanese islands and is also the island group's historical capital. That's probably where they gave that guy Cecil Rhodes his name, the Rhodes Scholar. Yeah, it all goes back to these guys. Still has about 50,000 inhabitants in 2011. It's located northeast of Crete. The Apostle Paul talks about the Cretians and even one of their own who said, we're all evil beasts and slow bellies. And it became known as the first paradox because, it's like, well, he called them, we're all liars and thus the paradox. Well, how can I believe you if you're always lying? Rhodes' nickname is the Island of the Knights, named after the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem. There's like, yeah, man. We're the Knights of St. John. And they couldn't be prouder. Flora, fauna, earthquakes, they got it all. They had a earthquake, the 2026 BC earthquake. There's some of those Bible verses. Which one is it? I always thought it was interesting. Was it Amos? Yeah. Amos chapter 1, verse 1. The words of Amos, who was among the shepherds of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, son of Joash, king of Israel, 2 years before the earthquake. Just thank you, Lord. But I think I could have picked Isaiah too. But I'm not sure what chapter it was where it says, which other ones? Does anybody know another one that was before the great earthquake? We're on Zephaniah 1, might as well read a couple verses of it. The word of the Lord that came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushai, son of Gedaliah, son of Amariah, son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Amnon, king of Judah. I will utterly sweep away everything from the face of the earth declares the Lord. I will sweep away man and beast. I will sweep away the birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea and the rubble with the wicked. I will cut off mankind from the face of the earth, declares the Lord. I will stretch out my hand against Judah and against all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will cut off from this place the remnant of Baal and the name of the idolatrous priest, along with the priest, those who bow down on the roofs to the host of the heavens, those who bow down and swear to the Lord and yet swear to Milcom, those who have turned back from following the Lord, who do not seek the Lord or inquire of him. Be silent before the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is near. The Lord has prepared a sacrifice and consecrated his guests. And on the day of the Lord's sacrifice, I will punish the officials and the king's son, and all who array themselves in foreign attire. On that day, I will punish everyone who leaps over the threshold and those who fill their master's house with violence and fraud. On that day, declares the Lord, a cry will be heard from the fish gate, a wail from the second quarter. Wail, O inhabitants of the mortar, for all the traders are no more. All who weigh out silver are cut off. At that time, I will search Jerusalem with lamps, and I will punish the men who were complacent, those who say in their hearts, the Lord will not do good, nor will he do ill. Their goods shall be plundered, and their houses laid waste. Though they build houses, they shall not inhabit them. Though they plant vineyards, they shall not drink wine from them. The great day of the Lord is near, and hastening fast. The sound of the day of the Lord is bitter. The mighty man cries aloud there. A day of wrath is that day, a day of distress and anguish, a day of ruin and devastation, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet blast and battle cry against the fortified cities and against the lofty battlements. I will bring distress on mankind so that they shall walk like the blind, because they have sinned against the Lord. Their blood shall be poured out like dust, and their flesh like dung. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them on the day of the wrath of the Lord. In the fire of his jealousy, all the earth shall be consumed. For a full and sudden end he will make of all the inhabitants of the earth. My question is, what do we get here at the beginning? There will be a remnant. There's always going to be a remnant. I will sweep away the birds of heaven and the fish of the sea and the rubble with the wicked. I will cut off mankind from the face of the earth. Where did God tell them to be? Run to the mountains, be in the catacombs, be in a place, flee from the wrath of what was coming. That has always been the message here on Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age Past. And it's here still on Mud Flood Was Armageddon. That is what it is supposed to be like. That's the way it happened, and that's the way we're supposed to read it. Now, after all of my years of studying it and everything else, and saying that it is my calling. I've been called to do this. It's been revealed to me. There are veils being lifted. Why would I do anything different? Why would I say anything different? I'm not building on anybody else's work, and that's documented. And although some people don't think that's important, the Bible stresses importance on it. Paul stresses, that you're there and you don't want it, that he's not going to be building on another man's work, laying another foundation. And that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. And that's why I'm refreshing, because from the very beginning of this mud flood movement, there's been the choice of Atlantis or the Bible. And I think that if it's not the Bible, it's only left Atlantis. And that's going to be, just like always, my story going forward. My intention going forward is always going to be that it is about the Lord Jesus Christ and properly understanding it. Because if we've been lied to about we don't remember how we fell in love with the globe. We can't remember that, but we did. And a lot of us, we fell in love with America. We knew that we were number one. And it's hard to see. We know that things are changing. They've segregated a lot of things. That's why in this one, it is going to be a review and a proof that there was life, there was research before the last 2 years of lockdown. So I needed to close out these things. So we saw Patmos and that. We saw Rhodes. And let's see, we're closing them out. So there's a Patmos, Arkansas, in Hempstead County. Got the coordinates on the 333045. Not very many people there. 61 people, 21 households, but they got themselves a Patmos. And that's right around the area of Hope, Arkansas. Well, we all heard about Hope, Arkansas because of Bill Clinton. There's his childhood home. The boy from Hope. He lived right next door to Patmos in a Kit town. They named that school after him, I think. There's an old, hey, look what we just found. Let's string some electricity up in it. Look how nice the streets are. Where is all of the poop and everything they said that destroyed the cities? That looks pretty good. So that's Arkansas, right down in here, this part of Arkansas. He was what they called a hillbilly, I think. So here's the county. It looks like a fractal inside a fractal. Got that cleared up. So looks like I wanted to look at Genesis 46. It's all about, these are the people that went in there. We'll know by what I looked it up. What's an abomination? You know what? I looked this up because that's what the Egyptians thought it was like to eat with the Hebrews. They thought that every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians, loathsome. I thought that was interesting. So that's what it was, verse 34. Let's read from 28 then, through that verse 34 for the big finish. He had sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to show the way before him to Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen. Then Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to meet Israel, his father, in Goshen. He presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. Israel said to Joseph, "Now let me die, since I have seen your face and know that you are still alive." Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go up and tell Pharaoh and will say to him, my brothers and my father's household who were in the land of Canaan have come to me, and the men are shepherds, for they have been keepers of livestock, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. When Pharaoh calls you and says, 'What is your occupation?' you shall say, 'Your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth even until now, both we and our fathers, in order that you may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians.'" And well, they ended up making bricks anyway. So they had that going. They had that for that was in their future, their near future. You like, don't get into a brick making contest with those guys. What I look up here. More, and just another word for same word, abomination, but another more. See, because abomination has got a lot of words for it, But detestable thing, pretty much you get it though. But on this one, where there's only 16 out of the 117, is loathsome. Still that same one. 32, and that's Genesis 32, and then there's also that Genesis 34 or 46, 34, and then also 43:32. That's that same abomination. So there we go. We got through all of those. Still had a little bit more of the beach tunnel if we wanted to look at some of that. I remember this is like the New York that could have been, it says. Why couldn't it have been? Underground tour. That seems cool. We got time. You can book a tour. About $300, it looks like. They'll get you to take you down there. They'll tell you where you are. Guests love it. Taking your research to a whole new level. Look, there's got your tokens that you used to use for those trains. Line up. Get in the tour. Chamber Street. It's an old one. They don't know where it goes. That's a tube for the vortex. Hey, wait a minute. We already saw that one. This is kind of funny. What? Hey, look at London had one. London's got one. What that, London? Put your mail in there. That's how you smuggled drugs back in England. Get ready. We're going to seal you in there. Get yourself a seal. You're going to prepare yourself. You might hear what has come to be known in the vernacular as a whooshing type of sound. You might hear a whoosh, but then you're going to go right into town, then under the water, and over to the island. We'll get back news to you here how it worked in a little while, everybody. The pneumatic. This is good research here. We'll look at that company. There's one of the car they found. See their story over there is going to be, look at it. We found this intact, man. That's how we know it worked. They got one. We just don't have to believe their story about it. That thing was made to last. I can't imagine what kind of a junky thing we'd be using today. They could put that thing right to work right now. A little lube that you got to keep it oiled and it'll be good. There they go. Here's your first dispatch of the mail. London found the Beaches Tunnel thing too. Look, they even got here's that you can buy shares in it, but I bet it didn't work because of the stock market crash. Then they forgot about it. Man, where'd it go? But that's where they were taking the mail. Was formed on the 30th of June, 1859, to design and build and operate an underground railway system for the carrying of mail, parcels, and light freight between locations in London. The system was used between 1863 and 1874. In 1859, Tom Ramel and Joe Clark proposed an underground tube network in central London for the more speedy and convenient circulation of dispatches and parcels. Now, that's that pneumatic tubes. I wonder if they built a railroad in the dark like Alfred Ely Beach did. So they're right there in that window, 1859. Now, did they get crushed by the 1873 stock market crash? Possibly. They got it going on some narrow gauge construction. Got had the post office. We saw that one. 1866 financial crisis. See, theirs was a little bit earlier. Oh man, and then there was a collapse. So they restarted construction in 1868, was able to get up to 60 miles an hour. Way to go. Uh-oh. They couldn't make up their money. The post office abandoned its use in 1870 and went into liquidation in 1875. Oh, man. They reported in 1876 that the trucks containing the parcels continually stuck in the tunnels, and that's why it failed. It lost its seal. Wow. So they opened it up again. It looks like they rediscovered it, and it opened up in 27, and then it finally closed in 2003. Now it's got itself a museum. Mount Pleasant. That's where the largest one is, underneath the Paddington District. Here's your map, in case you were wondering about here's the Northern District. They could just shoot this, I guess, this way. That's the route of the post office tube railway. Maybe they had a sorting place here and separate line to go to King's Cross. Anybody ever? I've never been over there. I've only been to Canada and Mexico and Estados Unidos. There you go. There's your 1930 stock car 803. You can see that today if you go to the Berkhamshire. Oh, it was inspired by the Chicago Tunnel Company. Well, how many? We've seen this picture before. Look what we found. It's like they took the sign off it because they didn't want it to say Beach's Pneumatic Tube. That's right where that guy was sitting, right here where you take your ticket or something. Why do they keep hitting it so fast? Somebody cleaned that one out pretty good. These guys were using it. Watch out. Those are two Morgan locomotives posed for a publicity photo in 1904. I've seen the video of these things moving it. These things, you know, can go sideways and then straighten out and hook it up and pull it down to Marshall Fields. There you go. Back in the golden age when I don't know if they cleaned them out better or are those your Nephilim? There's some videos of this. Bankruptcy. we still got a connection there. Let's see. Maybe so that's how it started, that video on the flood. This is track work typical in a Grand Union. Very complex. You used to have to spin them around in 19. Come around that corner pretty good. From 1971. Let's see. I had some pulled up just an old file to see what was going on back. You know, this is from the summer of 2019, before, you know, when getting locked down was just a conspiracy theory. See, that's a Starfort wall camouflaged by the trees, and just the immensity of it all. You can't put it into perspective. Some old, you know, what was I studying before the lockdown? Nanotech. Starforts in China. The Talking Heads. Hey, that's the first Walmart there. E.P. Charlton and Company became like a Walmart. Look, it's a balloon. There's another one. They're playing chess on a. Hey man, look at that. They playing chess in front of a big Starfort. "50 years ago today, the John Birch Society printed and distributed wanted posters of President John F. Kennedy 2 days before he arrived in Dallas. Fred Koch was a John Birch founder. His sons, the Koch family, the Koch brothers, fund the Tea Party and other libertarian front groups." The John Birch Society. So what did it say here, though? Wanted for treason. This man is wanted for treasonous activities against the United States. Number one, betraying the Constitution, which he swore to uphold. He is turning the sovereignty of the United States over to the communist-controlled United Nations. He is betraying our friends, Cuba, Katanga, and Portugal, and befriending our enemies, Russia, Yugoslavia, and Poland. Number two, he has been wrong on innumerable issues affecting the security of the United States, in parentheses, United Nations, Berlin Wall, missile removal, Cuba, wheat deals, test ban treaty, etc. Number three, he has been lax on enforcing communist registration laws. So you don't want to be lax. You could be tried for treason if the John Birchers had their way. Number four, he, John F. Kennedy, the one wanted for treason, has given support and encouragement to the communist-inspired racial riots. Doug, stop it, JFK, if these are true. Five, if this is probably a rewrite of history also. We don't Let's don't panic. Number 5, he has illegally invaded a sovereign state with federal troops. Number 6, he has consistently appointed anti-Christians to federal office, upholds the Supreme Court in its anti-Christian rulings. Aliens and known communists abound in federal offices. Finally, number 7, he has been caught in fantastic lies to the American people, including personal ones like his previous marriage and divorce. What? Jackie O was not number 1? Maybe that's why he treated her like number 2. We just don't know. Is that all the photos? So these are just, let's see, these are some of the fiat money. People wanted to, I was studying the fiat money. That's a currency without intrinsic value. I was trying to tie this into the 1970s when the Bretton Woods Agreement, the Unix epoch with the computers all started. So fiat money does not have use value and has value only because a government maintains its value or because parties engaging in exchange agree on its value. It's like, for sure, we know what you mean. It's like you give them $100, you can usually get yourself 100 candy bars. Fiat money has been defined variously as any money declared by a government to be legal tender. I think that's what it says on our United States currency. State issued money which is neither convertible by law to any other thing, nor fixed in value in terms of objective standard. So not only can you take, like if you have $1 that still says silver certificate on it, it's just face value. You can't get that money in silver anymore like it's promises on that dollar. You can't even get 100 sticks of bubble gum unless bubble gum's on sale that day for $1, because it takes $100 to get 100 candy bars. I'm thinking it'd probably take $10 to get 100 pieces of gum, chewing gum. Huh. I see they're going to throw the word fiduciary at us here. But anyway, fiat money, that's not the way it goes. Our precious metals is not used in the money anymore. Canada, United States, the Coinage Act of 1965 eliminated silver. Stop that silver from the circulating dimes. Don't put any more silver in the coin. Royal Mint stopped it. They still got the gold bullion, though. A couple of them. China's got some paper money. Europe had some paper money. New France had some paper money. Everybody got the paper money. All kinds of theories about where's the money created. Who's got the billions of dollars here? Got the United States got some billions. The Eurozone's got some billions. Japan's got some billions. India, Russia, United Kingdom, Switzerland, Korea, Mexico got some billions. Canada's got some billions. I guess it's the per capita thing. Look at Switzerland. Per capita, it doubled in the United States. Hey, boo, quit doubling the United States, everybody. Look at Hong Kong. That's why China's there like, man, I got to get me some of that. Oh, wait, we got that already. In Singapore, they didn't, they're with us. We got about that too. We get doubled by some of them countries. What we don't want is that hyperinflation, but we can't look at all of these things I got pulled up here. What's this one? It's like this was oh, I think I opened it. Oh, the Weld County. Now this is, you're going to like this. Historical and architectural elements represented in the Weld County Courthouse in Colorado. The Weld County Courthouse blends a wide variety of historical and architectural elements. The words such as meotrope, dental, and frieze might only be familiar to those in the architectural field. However, this glossary will assist the rest of us to more fully comprehend the design components used throughout the building and where examples could be found. Now, when I was studying this, my contention was that the reason that we have so many fascists and everything else, that about the time this Weld County was being distributed as the kit courthouses going up, it was all the way fascist style, which means the Greek and the Roman. And this article is evidence that should lead towards pretty good proof of that. Because when you were buying these, you'd get, here's your explanation of a Corinthian capital with the acanthus plant on it, a stylized leaf pattern used to decorate Corinthian or composite capitals. They also are used in friezes and medallions and can be found in classical Greek and Roman architecture. This type of pattern, when you see it, no matter where it is that Greek/Roman. They're the same thing. An amphora, a form of Greek pottery that appears on pediments above doorways. The atrium, which you see in a lot of things. Now, I was invited one time to see a friend of mine, Doug Beazles, Admiral Doug Beazles. He was the commandant at the Great Lakes Naval Training Academy. He was being transferred to Guam to be the head of the Pacific. Anyway, that's the only time I got to go into the building there at Great Lake. And they had an atrium that went down, one of these, and then it could see down through to the first floor. So an atrium is an inner court of a Roman-style building, a top-lit covered opening rising through all stories of a building. What is an arcade? A series of arches on pillars. In the Middle Ages, the arches were ornamentally applied to walls. Arcades would have housed statues in Roman or Greek buildings. Balustrade. What is that? Well, that's your fence to keep you from falling through the atrium. A row of small posts that support the upper railing joined by a handrail serving as an enclosure for balconies, terraces, etc. Examples in the courthouse include the area over the staircase leading to the second floor and surrounding the atria on the third and fourth floors. A barrel vault over the door. single curve or curves along a given distance. A bas relief is a shallow carving or figuring. Here showing the horn of plenty, the flowers and the pottery that we were talking about earlier. A blind arch is a decorative row of arches applied to a wall as a decorative element. This arch is probably not supporting as much as these arches. A broken pediment is, see, the pediment now has the statue of the eagle or something there. Pediments that are open or broken at the apex, base, or both. The gap often is filled with an urn, cartouche, or other ornaments. Now, what is the capital? The crowning head of a column or pilaster. The capitals of the courthouse are Corinthian and Ionic, combined with modifications that include acanthus leaves and Baroque style shell designs. A column, or even a faux column, slightly angled or square pillars used as supports or decorative in nature. A composite is, an advanced Corinthian capital. A Roman elaboration of the Corinthian order. Composite capitals usually include acanthus leaves, voltules, ekinths with eggs, and dart ornamentation between the voltules. Dentils, I guess these small tooth-like carvings, generally on a rectangular. Egg and dart. The egg, I think they're referring to, is the shell in the Vesica picus, if continued. Decoration used prolifically in classical Greek and Roman architecture, consisting of an egg-shaped object alternating with a decoration shaped like a dart or arrow. Another element extensively used in ancient Greece. Engaged columns, half columns. Here's what they call a festoon, actually is a form of a fascist. Festoon, sculptural representation of swags, scrollwork, and drapings. Represents garlands of ribbons, flowers, fruit, or foliage draped between the two supports. When they were looking at a Kit courthouse during our fascist time in between the wars. Let's see, we are still going here. Back. These are cave explorers, subway explorers. There's the underground subway. Lost underground subway, abandoned. I just had to check on, see what is all the commotion on with the. There's been a dog that's been getting loose, a Great Dane, provoking the girls. Get a little photography going on here. That was back in the golden age, but they abandoned it. They said, we can't fix this thing. They're up too much money. So you can go subscribe to the live gen. Let's get back. Here's a laurel and a frieze right after the fret. Decorative wide central station, part of an establisher. A frieze is a long stretch of painted, sculpted, or calligraphic, that fancy writing. Normally above eye level, decorations may depict scenes in sequence. Now, a laurel, it shows surrounding this clock, which we'll get to, which is just amazing. A circular wreath made of interlocking branches and leaves, typically of bay laurel, a mark of fame, honor, victory, or glory. In the Weld County Courthouse, the laurel represents the majesty of the court and the responsibility one bears in such a position of honor. The laurel is associated with Apollo, god of justice. Metopes, rectangles which could be plain, painted, or sculpted in relief. There's a modified entablature, heavily decorated structure above capitals and columns. Modillion, enriched block or horizontal brackets. And I think that these are going to be copies of what we see in the classical Greek buildings. And these are what their names are. I think you can see those pretty good. The pediment, broken pediment right there. Pilaster, shallow rectangular column projecting only slightly from a wall, and in classical architecture conforming to one of the orders: Ionic, Doric, Corinthian, and then Corinthian composite. There's a Roman arch, a rondelle, any disc or plate-like figure, rosette, mimicking the parts of the body, a formation or arrangement resembling or suggesting a rose. In architecture, a painted or sculpted ornament, usually circular, having petals and leaves radiating symmetrically from the center. Triglyphs, so you see a lot of those are three things based on there. Vertical grooved rectangles whose appearance is reminiscent of beam ends, and a volute, scroll shaped, found on Ionic capitals. That's the swirly part here. The Book of the Laws, a symbolic depiction of the laws of a state. The cornucopia, the horn of plenty, symbolizes fortuitousness, goddess of justice, an allegorical personification of the moral force in judicial systems. Lady Justice is typically shown as blindfolded, but can be depicted as the Greek goddess Tyche, meaning fortune or destiny. Harpy, the birds surrounding the clock, winged creature best known for consistently is snatching food, constantly snatching food. You harpies. A torch, looking for torches, symbolizing guidance. They had stained glass windows in that Weld County Courthouse. Came right with your kit. This is what it means. Nothing without divine will. In the courthouse, they have a broken pediment back there. Some of your basic fake pillars. State of Colorado, the Centennial State, became a state 100 years after 1776, but they didn't write the Constitution or really get the thing going until, what was it, 1887, or was it 1892, or what did they really, was it 1812? Anyway, they got the fascist symbol going on that one. Fascist symbol on that one. Eye of Horus in a pediment right up there. Very interesting stuff there. Welcome, everybody. Glad everybody's here to say hi. I'm just kind of going over some old, trying to clear out some of these things in order, just seeing this is what was going on the summer before the lockdown. Who was George W. Carey? See if I can remember. Oh, he was an American homeopath and occultist. Once again, right up to in between the wars, known for a number of 1910s chemistry of life publications, subject which he referred to as biochemistry, particularly his 1919's The Chemistry of Human Life. This was an occultist writing about these things, but basically all generally using a mixture of religion, astrology, philosophy, anatomy, and chemistry, themed particularly with a mineral-based theory of human disease. Carey is popular among homeopathic and New Age circles in the context of a person viewed as a human molecule. Carey was the first to state that a person's body is a chemical formula in operation. Carey was influenced by Wilhelm Heinrich Schreber ideas about cell salts. He founded his own biochemical college. And I thought that there, was, you could never have too many, but, they went out of style somehow. So that was that, that's kind of what's going on here. So that was George Carey. What's this? This is another one of his books, I'll bet. Yeah, it's one of his books. In 1913, he wrote this book, The Antichrist. Oh yeah. He was all about that. Oh, this is reprinted. So he finally got himself in some paperback. Wonder what he had to say. Primitive Christians, the Essenes, fully realized and taught the great truth that Christ was a substance, an oil or ointment, contained especially in the spinal cord, consequently in all parts of the body, as every nerve in the body is directly or indirectly connected with the wonderful river that flows out of Eden, the upper brain, to water the garden. The early Christians knew that the scriptures, whether written in ancient Hebrew or Greek, were allegories, parables, or fables based on the human body. Oh man. Remember when I was studying this and we were going and like this is all just a big joke, that they were trying to make it seem like the Kabbalah, that was the Oprah Winfrey theology, that everything is in the head, but denying the fact that there really was our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ who walked the earth. That for, unless you've seen him doing miracles, would have looked like a normal man. So that's what we're studying right there. Amy, how you doing there? Glad to see you here, Randy. This really, there's been a lot going on in the last hour and 45 minutes starting with the beach tunnel, a couple of good chapters in the Bible and things like that. It was really going good. So I'm just trying to get through here. There's probably another George Carey thing coming in our very imminent future, because we had saw that he wrote that book. And what was he doing? I think this is the last one. I was doing some research on him. This one's called The Chemistry of Life. There he is again. That's the occultist favorite there. It is faithfully yours, George W. Carey, author of The Antichrist. And here it is, back to the chemistry of human life, that, don't believe that there's a real Jesus. Don't trust that so that's how the whole world was falling apart during this, was, working hand in hand with Blavatsky, Helen Blavatsky, Theophysist, the Rosicrucians, Golden Dawn, It's All Sad But True, Jesuits. Did I see some underlined parts here? Chemistry of wisdom. What they don't believe, if they don't think that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ did come in the flesh and that this is all just spiritual, that's where they're wrong. But that's what they teach. Now listen to how they try to sound wise in their foolishness. Life is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Being all, life must be wisdom. So then it follows that all forms, appearances, and so-called matter must be life or wisdom in that form of expression. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. God made man from the dust or mineral of the earth. God made of one blood all persons. The blood is the life. The life of the flesh is in the blood. See, I think they just wear them out by much verbiage. But if they're taking away that John 4:24, God is a spirit, and we must worship him in spirit and in truth. And there is nothing about the language of the Bible to seem that it is all just metaphor, all allegory, so that they can believe their Madonna, Oprah Winfrey, Joel Osteen type. They don't know Jesus Christ. So that was interesting. That was fun to study. I guess I was into why do they believe this and that or the other thing. Next one in line was the steam donkey. Steam donkey was how you get things done back in the day. If you just took one steam donkey, no matter where you put it, you could hook it up and you had electricity and enough power to do anything. Not just logging, but mining, maritime. It's just a winch. You could, you need power, there it is. You could hook it up to a factory to hook up 200 looms. Steam doesn't care how it's getting used. So they just went crazy, but then they needed them to burn hotter. So they started making charcoal and coke and, big Bessemer forging, more heat. Steam donkeys. Yeah, I remember doing a whole video about it. Just take one there and drop them off. But steam power is not practical. They don't like it because it's practically free. Looks like next on, I was getting to that. The day they changed the gauge. What is that, you might ask? Well, we've talked about it, after the Civil War, they had to get their tracks for the North and the South. You know, one had a 5 foot, and the other one was only 4 foot 9 inches. And then it said, you know, over a concentrated 2-day period in the summer of 1886, the width of thousands of miles of railroad track and the wheels on thousands of rail cars was reduced by 3 inches. And that was all in a less than 2-day period over the weekend. And the people never knew. It just happened seamlessly and perfectly. I was checking up on their railroad gauge acts and different things in different countries, and they all had that crazy same kind of a story. Just some highfalutin stuff. About that same time, was studying and found out that the census of the United States were just completely goofy, nonsensical, and that nobody could make any sense of them. In 1900, they wrote their hands up and said, "You asked us to do this 20 years ago. Here's your report. Nothing makes sense in any of our censuses." If I remember right, page 34 had something going on with it. Or was it 32? No form of schedule for the enumeration of the population was prescribed by the act providing for the census of 1840, being presumably left to the discretion of the Secretary of State. Although the law stipulated the nature of the inquiries to be made, the schedule, which was provided for the use of the marshals and assistants, followed very closely the size and form of the schedule used in 1830 and called for the same subdivisions of the population as to color, sex, and age as at the census, together with the inquiry as to the number of white persons and of free colored and slaves who were deaf and dumb or blind, the same as in 1830, with the exception that the deaf and dumb among the free colored and slave population were not subdivided in 1840 according to the 3-age period specified in 1830. In addition, a further inquiry was made for each of those two classes of the population as to the number of insane and idiots who were respectively at public or private charge. And the schedule also called for the number of persons in which family employed in each of 7 classes of occupations, namely mining, agriculture, commerce, manufacturers, and trades, navigation of the ocean, navigation of canals, lakes, and rivers, and learned professions and engineers. So was that what they needed all those insane asylums for and or orphanages for as they were dividing these things? Saying, okay, now you go here, now you go there. Or were they making them that way, declaring whole classes of people that way? The census doesn't make it clear. But they were clear that they were getting paid money. Maybe it was their page 34. For the collection of this information, a separate schedule was provided which prescribed by name the classes of establishments or products concerning which a return was to be made in statistical tables by the marshals and their assistants. These inquiries related usually to the quantity or value produced, or both in some cases, number of employees, amount of capital invested, number of establishments, and for certain specified products of mining and of fishery and of manufacturers, the quantity or value of certain types, specified products of agriculture, the number of commercial and commission houses. They were trying to get after the reset down to how many pans did you have? What type of tools did you have? What did those tools describe themselves out? Who made the tools? Because they didn't know anything about it. So they asked about everything. You read through this and you'll find some very weird stuff, but they had we all got distracted because there was a pandemic. And now you got to watch out because there's like the dangerous people out there, the unvaccinated. You got to watch out. What's this? Federal Reserve Act, some sort of a legal document I'm reading here. Public Law number 43 in the 63rd Congress, House Resolution 7837. An act to provide for the establishment of Federal Reserve banks. What? Those guys, just a minute, I got to get a drink. We got the federal. This is where the Federal Reserve Act was passed. We were studying that fiat money earlier too. Huh. So this was enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress, assembled, that the short title of this act shall be the Federal Reserve Act. I heard of that one. At your House Resolution 7837. If you know whatever those guys out there with their gematria, I'll listen to that for a little bit, see what you guys what do you got on that? Wherever the word bank is used in this act, the word shall be held to include state bank, banking association, and trust company, except where national banks or Federal Reserve banks are specifically referred to. The term, in quotes, national bank, and also, in quote, National Banking Association, used in this act shall be held to be synonymous. That means they're the same, and interchangeable. That means they're the same. And the term member bank shall be held to mean any national bank, state bank or trust company which has become a member of one of the reserve banks created by this act. Oh, wow, I was studying hard stuff, hard to even pronounce. Not that hard, but they just keep throwing it at you, As soon as practicable, the Secretary of the Treasury, the Secretary of the Agriculture, and the Comptroller of the Currency, acting as the Reserve Bank Organization Committee, shall designate not less than 8 nor more than 12 cities to be known as Federal Reserve cities, and shall divide the continental United States, excluding Alaska, into districts, each district to contain only one of such Federal Reserve cities. The determination of said organization committee shall not be subject to review. I bet if you lobbied them and the people that lobbied them submitted their bills, they go like, that one was about $100 because that was a hard one for us to get over on them, but we don't want to be held liable. And then they said, well, it's going to be $100, so we paid them because now they can't be held liable. And that's, from what I've understood, that's when you can justice is not blind. You can't be held liable. It was crazy. under regulation to be prescribed by the Organization Committee, every national banking association in the United States is hereby required, and every eligible bank in the United States and every trust company within the District of Columbia is hereby authorized to signify in writing within 60 days after the passage of this act its acceptance of the terms and provisions hereof when the organization committee shall have designated the cities in which Federal Reserve banks are to be organized. We have a new world order, and it's going to be a new world order. It's going to happen with 1,000 points of light. Oh, wait. I'm a fighter. I'm a winner. Things are going to change. Isn't that what Beck sang about when he dropped that George quote on it? That's George H.W. Walker. I'm a fighter. I'm a winner. Things are going to change. I can feel it. The shareholders of every Federal Reserve Bank shall be held individually responsible, equally and ratably, and not one for another, for all contracts, debts, and engagements of such banks to the extent of the amount of their subscriptions to such stock at the par value thereof, in addition to the amount subscribed, whether such subscriptions have been paid up in whole or in part under the provisions of the act. You got 60 days. You got 60 days, man. You got 60 days to say you're with it or against it. You with it, you against it. We're going to make it up 10 districts right here. Boom. We got the banks, we got the money. We're going fiat money right now. Who's with us? Look at this one here. See here? The federal board is hereby empowered to adopt and promulgate rules and regulations governing the transfer of said stock. Well, who gave them the jurisdiction to do that? If you've gotten this by some fair and legal way, you know, but did you steal it and said, we're in charge now, this is what's happening? It's what it sounds like. Come on, man. They got branch banks too. So look at that. It's the Federal Reserve Act. It's a long law. Section 10. A Federal Reserve Board is hereby created, which shall consist of 7 members, including the Secretary of the Treasury and the Comptroller of the Currency, who shall be members ex facto, and 5 members appointed by the President of the United States, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. In selecting the 5 appointive members of the Federal Reserve Board, not more than one of whom shall be selected from any one Federal Reserve district. Sorry, guys, just one. Except those 2 guys, they get to keep their job. I think they're in the mafia. I challenge them. They're in the mafia. We got all kinds of laws, things to study, censuses that they don't make any sense. Your censuses stopped making sense. So we got the Fed. This is a copy of the Rosicrucians when they stopped printing in 77. This is a reprint. This is a long one, but there's their house. A lot of famous people studied all the Rosicrucian stuff there. I'll see the ones that had some pictures in here. Here's what they believed. All that. Got the Astrometeorological Society there at the end. These are all their secret societies trying to lead people away. Something happened, man, in between the wars. Yeah, it was this Golden Dawn and the Theosophical Society. Those guys. Scientific astrology. Oh, yeah, that was a notable feature of the late 1800s. They got it printed into paper. All the famous people, all the Jules Vernes and the Kiplings, they all loved it. This was their secret hangout. It's in Australia or something like that, or New Zealand. This is their last journal. Who's this guy? Didn't he just look like a normal guy? Wrong. That's Fiat Lux, man. He's one of their demon worshiping head of the secret societies. So here you go. Whoever wanted to know what the highest levels of the Rosicrucian order thinks. Here's one of their essays. So let's just see what they said. What is the order? This is for you to discover. The true answer cannot be put into words. It must be realized by the individual personally, realized, lived. Some concept, however, must be given, if only to dispel the host of misconceptions that have arisen since the introduction of one of its recent appearances under the popular name, the Golden Dawn. Though it may be said to have incarnated in many places for thousands of years, and indeed in many forms, it came to the Egyptians, the Chaldeans, that is the Babylonians, Greeks, that is the Romans, and Arabs in forms which have become part of recorded history. The Orient is credited with its own forms of training, but generally speaking, it has been handed down in private for the last 2,000 years. See how this is the Atlantean mindset that I've been saying, this is what we got to be fighting. This is what we're against. A period of very intense bigotry and aggressive fundamentalism, not only between the followers of different creeds, but between sects within these dogmas. It has been a period of intense dogmatism, giving rise to more fear and hatred than ever before. And this fixation on quote unquote truth as a dogma still gives rise to jealousy and suspicion among those who claim to seek quote unquote truth. I'm right and you're wrong feeds the ego its essential diet. Thus is the human need to know, with a capital K, as in know divinely, expressed in popular terms today. The human need to know, this common factor among us, is still deemed to be an extension of education, erudition, like you're an erudite, and not knowing is allied at a deep level to ignorance, stupidity. Our choice then is reduced to cleverness or stupidity, neither of which has anything in common with the next phase of human evolution. This is what your Rosicrucians, your secret information at the highest levels. Dogma concerns erudition.
Erudition. Erudition.
The quality of having or showing great knowledge or learning. It's like, look, there's some scholarship. I've hung around with some smart people, and I'm better for it. That's basically what they're looking for there, you know. So it's not always just dogma. If we were ever privileged to hang out with the Apostle Peter or Paul, we'd be wise to want to learn from them, not to shortchange anybody else. We gotta read this all. Nah, let's still read this one here. Consider the whole history of this planet from the first sign of life through each step of evolution to the latest phenomenon produced, Homo sapiens. Wow. Skipping a sentence. In man, the last step has been self-consciousness, which gives rise to reflection, musing, reasoning, all intellectual activity. See, it's no longer survival of the fittest, it's survival of the smartest. Thus, we come to our present stage as intelligent, self-conscious beings. Looks like the emergency over. You all settled down now, Ruger? Maniac. Got this. They're gonna tell you what to get: the body, emotions, soul, the love aspect, beauty, harmony. You got your Christ is in you, is what they say. It's what they want you to believe. That's what the Rosicrucian order is all about. It's how come they want to, but they also, this paper is not dogma, because that dogma is bad. It is merely an attempt at the almost impossible task of giving some idea as to the purpose of the order, as most intelligent people will require, and is wide open for questions. However, it would not be possible to enter into an intellectual dissertation on the modus operandi, the method of operation of the system, but a few general ideas can be implied. They got archangels, they got the DNA molecules, and they got a final goal. So, but they don't want to postulate it here, but they want you to believe in this billions of years thing. That's important because the aliens are coming back, man. Somehow that's what they believe, because that's what they want to talk about, their archetypes and living realities, their imprint, so that they believe that we are told that we are to grow to the fullness of the stature of Christ. You see, the way they speak and the way the Bible speaks are two different things. Now, the way they speak, when they say we, that means them. We speak of Christ in you, the hope of glory. Intellect can only postulate on these words, but their archetypical image and their modes of operating are enshrined in our rituals, hidden from the intellect, but ready to transcend it in due course. We do not promise to confer divinity on you by magic. Yes, they do. I just got to say it. Here's just a pack of liars. Yes, they do. But they say they don't. But by means of sigil, ceremonial, ritual, and sacrament, their blood offerings. So to lead you that by steady, patient application, you will, in fact, accept abortion. You will, in fact, as in symbolism, stand in the gateway to occult knowledge. So you're at the gate there. That's just where the gate goes. No man can do more for you, and you alone can at length attain to be more than human. This is from the wayfaring man, the lantern of the wayfaring man, Order of the Rosicrucians, or the Golden Dawn, the highest level of the Rosicrucians. They got to get their sacred rites, take their orders. Preconceptions, it continues on page 170 of 188, are indeed the greatest hindrance. That's what preconceptions are to enlightenment. The student has much less chance of discovering new realizations for and from themselves. Institution feeds on original discoveries, and the less one knows what to expect, the better. Each ceremony should be a completely new and refreshing field to discover. They want to close out, I guess it'd be their page 160. Coming thus properly prepared, one may arrive in their own good time at the gateway of the true hidden knowledge, which has never and will never be gained from the written word. So now you got to get through these 7 steps of enlightenment and all these other things, you know. Got the, what's this? The path of darkness? Are they getting, so here they're getting right into it. This is the summum bonum, the stone of the philosophers. Let us therefore be patient. Let us work on quietly through this night of time, for the morning will surely come, as we hear on first entering the temple. Let me enter the path of darkness, for peradventure there shall I find the light. It is all part of that great pathway of initiation, the path which is as old as time and as new as today. The path is clearly marked in the rituals of the order. And it says that's what's written on your heart. These guys are just a bunch of false demons, I tell you. Let's read the last paragraph. Sometime after the temple was closed, I moved to Waikiki Island until a cancer of the kidney reduced my activity, and I came into the Masonic village. During my life at Waikiki, I realized that I was in a position to be refound. He was in a position to refound their beloved order. I had to relocate as many papers as possible. Mostly these were not in good condition, so I had to retype everything. There were those who in Ware Ra who seriously tried to modify our system. Some were erstwhile friends of mine. Thank God the chiefs stood firm. What I have been able to pass on, I hope, is pure and undefiled. Let us keep it so. To the best of my abilities, I have kept things as they were in about 1920. I feel my work is nearly finished. So that is that Fiat Lex. Fiat Lex. Cubic stone. Bota. Ann Davies, New Zealand work. Everything just, the mafia took over. They figured they had done their job. They had said, that's enough. That's enough. So what else were we studying after that one? High seas. The high seas, an expression in international law meaning all those parts of the sea not under sovereignty of adjacent states. Claims have at times been made to exclusive dominion over large areas of the sea, as well as over wide margins, such as 100 miles by 60 miles, range of visions, etc., from land. The action and reaction of these interests, and this is from the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica. The actions and reactions of the interests of navigation, however, have brought states to adopt a limitation first enunciated by Binkershock in the formula terra dominium furnitu ube finitur armoretum vis. Thenceforth, cannon shot range became the determining factor in the fixation of the margin of sea, afterwards known as territorial waters. With the exception of these territorial waters, bays of certain dimensions and inland waters surrounded by territory of the same state and serving only as a means of access to ports of the state by whose territory they are surrounded, and some waters allowed by immemorial usage to rank as territorial all season oceans form part, all season oceans and now canals form all part of the high sea. The usage of the high sea is free to all nations of the world, subject only to such restrictions as result from respect for the equal rights of others, and to those which nations may contract with each other in order to observe. An interesting case affecting landlocked seas was that of the Emperor of Japan versus the Peninsular of the Oriental Steam Navigation Company, in which a collision had taken place in the inland sea of Japan. So a court decision. I guess, these are just things there was a time when I had to go to the library and download these PDFs to read them later to present on that night. And then the next day I would upload the video, do the same thing, and save and present, then save and present. I got into that rhythm, and I liked that style because a lot can get done. So right after I was studying that, I went right into the, looks like I was going to study something about Richard Condren, so I might as well open up all of his right now. So who is he? Why would I want to study him? Prolific and popular American political novelist. Though his works were satire, they were generally transformed into thrillers or semi-thrillers in other media. All 26 books were written in distinctive Condon style, fast-paced, outrage, frequent humor while focusing almost obsessively on monetary greed and political corruption. He is prominently remembered for his 1959 The Manchurian Candidate, and many years later, a series of 4 novels about a family of New York gangsters named Prizzi. Prizzi's Honor, leading to The Godfather. Wonder what was the big takeaway on this one. I remember studying it. Could have gone anywhere. But that, Fu Manchu and everything else, it went to my leading the learning and teaching that the Chinese have taken over mafia style. The White Goddess. This was another artist popular in 1948. And that's where they got all of this. Hey, let's forget about Jesus and let's start looking towards the Celts. They're the good guys. Yeah, man, the Druids, those guys, man, we love them. That's when they brought back the Mother Goddess, Earth Gaia. It was only 1948 pagan mythologies. All you pink-haired, blue-haired Wiccans, you're just a basic New Age rewrite by these guys who went back and misinterpreted things from the walls and the pictures into saying, oh yeah, women were in charge, man, and they're good at magic. You should try it. Go give it a whirl there, and check it out. So he wrote that one, and they also wrote this one too. Golden Broth. That same guy, George Fraser, or one of these guys they're all inspired. You know, Bullfinch is the age of fables. Well, that Bullfinch is, without his book on the Greek gods, how would anybody ever get through their classes, right? He's the one who wrote all that stuff. And that's how they were just bringing it back, Rewrite history. Forget the Grimm's fairy tale and just make it up like, all the witches were good. You should check it out. You can do whatever you want. You can have that. Those dogs. Hey. I'm going to check out a video here for a second. I'll go check that out. I'll be right back. Check this out.
And how much do I care about truth? In a past life, I think I preferred the sword. In others, it was the pen. And today,
you know what? Whoever really knows what John Levy believes, here I think he's endorsing reincarnation of some sort. But so let's look at it that way here. And I'm not trying to say let's do that, but you got some good pictures.
it's this computer. I want to say that every video I've made up to this point has simply been practice. I didn't want to start saying what I wanted to say until I had mastered this art. And although I have not mastered it, I'm satisfied. I've known what I wanted to talk about for over 15 years, and it was very dangerous. Even on this internet, speaking will get you silenced. Censorship is at an all-time high, and so is hypocrisy. It seems like the closer I am to the target, the more I'm attacked, both on this platform and in my personal affairs. I'm currently engaged in many battles with evil, and most of these will take place on paper. And I've made 2 videos already on the real subject that I want to talk about. And again, I have not felt safe enough to talk about it with this high level of censorship, pushing their false authority with lies and fear so that only their side is propped up. And just a taste of what's to come. As for today's video, we're going to check out a little town in Canada. Welcome. Okay, this was a share from Jeff, and I thank you, Jeff. Great clues pointing to a little city in Ontario. The city is called Guelph, Ontario. Very strange name. And here I happen to be looking at the Guelph power plant. So many different angles to approach today's research. I'm pretty much torn in many different directions. Here a college, here what seems like the remains of a star fort, and something glorious must have sat on this site. Let's zoom out a little and show you where we are. That was this point here in Toronto, and so much amazing remains to be found on these artificial coastlines. What was here before? And let's zoom out a little bit more. And here we can see Guelph, about 100 miles or so northwest of Toronto. And who would think there would be anything out here? And yet there is so much. Seeming like an innocent little town, we see amazing canals cutting through it. We see a grid that looks like circuitry, now turned into neighborhoods. And even today, pretty small. And wait till you see the history of this town. Nicknamed the Royal City. I thank you for being here today. We'll start off with a little history. Today, Guelph has a population of 131,000. A city in southwestern Ontario, Canada, known as the Royal City. It's roughly 28 kilometers east of Kitchener and 100 kilometers west of downtown Toronto. It began as a settlement established by a Scotsman, John Galt, a crusty old fellow. He was the first superintendent of the Canada Company. And like we discussed in a past video, these companies and their charters roll in and establish cities and governments, and in my opinion, repurpose everything from the old world. And if we were told the truth, and if the system was just and fair, this would be quite honorable. But unfortunately, establishing these nations as slave systems from the beginning. And let's just scroll down here and have a little look at the population real quick. 1841, we have about 1,200 people. And clear up to the early 1900s, not more than 10,000. And everything we'll be looking at today will be in this short 50-year period. Very much reminding me of San Francisco and even Salt Lake City, building out an entire city, in this case in a royal fashion, in 50 years. In 1882, they would open a public library with some assistance from Carnegie, of course. Always a good way to explain the impossible. Oh, a grant from Carnegie. Let's look at this 1882 public library. And I wish I could show you a picture of my shitty library, but here we go. And if you remember, in 1882, we should have a population of a little over 9,000 people. And this is their library. But that's nothing. Let's look at some of the historic sites. The streets of Guelph are lined with Victorian-era buildings, which are now well over a century old. Other historic buildings in the area include the Winter Fair Building, the County Jail, and Governor's Residence. The Guelph Armory, and let me just show you a picture of that. Here we go, the Guelph Armory. Armories are always constructed like castles, all built in this early time period. We see here a giant mill in 1855.
That was fun. The dogs did really good. The John, who is he's almost a year-old Great Dane, and he's going to be very big, but now he's figured out he can jump up onto the doghouse and over the fence. He's out all the time. But so they're about usually 30 yards apart, fenced in, but now he can come over and get right up their fence, and that's what they were barking about like maniacs. So that's pretty cool. Got to watch. You guys liking that video? Let's see what else we had. Let's just see what we have here. If we do just beach tunnel. This is one of those tours, I guess. Pretty cool. It's not that much different than the way the tunnels are today in Chicago. That's these are the photos they took there that day. Got a little flash on them to help out. Looks like they're just using them to store garbage. See that? Or maybe that's just what the trash the tourists leave. They got some lights here for when they need to make movies, I guess. Yeah, we can't keep these track. We can't use these anymore. Nah, those days are gone. Everything in between the wars, that's a rewrite.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is a beautiful day, and I'm hanging out in Central Park, my favorite place in the city. And today I'm going to take you around and show you some of the hidden secrets in the park, like where to find a hidden nature sanctuary, how to navigate using the lamppost, and even where to find some ruins. But my favorite is the Forbidden Cave. People have no idea that just across the pond there is the secret bird sanctuary. There's only one entrance, and it's guarded by a lady with a clipboard. The sanctuary is only open for a few hours a week, so make sure you check the schedule so you can actually get in here. But it's got some nice views over the lake, and they're always adding new trails, so it's exciting to come in here. Cute. I love the sanctuary. If you want to see a lot more of it, click the link up here. I made an entire video all about just the sanctuary. The next hidden secret is right between Heckscher Playground and the Heckscher Ball Field. It's Rat Rock, which isn't a secret because of the giant rock in the middle of the park. The secret is that it's great for bouldering. You can see all the chalk from people's hands as they've been climbing around this thing. It's a little beyond my ability, but it's got some pretty good handholds here.
Yeah, those are body parts, man. Rat Rock. Here's your original survey bolt from the city plan.
1909. So it's over 200 years it's been sitting there. Central Park wants to keep the location of this thing a secret so it doesn't get vandalized. So I'm not going to tell you exactly where it is, but think of where the roads intersect and check those intersections, and that's how I found it. The mall is by no means a secret, but it's fantastic, and you should come here anyways. Coming up on Bethesda Terrace, you got these little sculptures in here. It's the day, so there's sunrise, wake up, do your work, then you come home, do your reading, it gets dark out and the owls come play, and then apparently it turns into Halloween. Probably the most useful secret you're gonna learn today is right here in the middle of the terrace. You got bathrooms, as men, women behind. If you want a better view of the Bow Bridge, just come over here, jump up on this rock. Is through here. You take the steps. Now, this, right now we're at West 78th Street. The O2, the plants in here were mentioned in his place. And throughout the garden, you got these little, I'm going to try it with the camera. I'm not going to get a good frame, but hopefully you can hear me. There used to be a prominent African American community called Seneca Village, but the only thing you can see now is this little part of the foundation here to drinking water. And everything north of 96th Street is fed by this one pipe. Secret of its own. It's been here since like the 1860s, and for 130 years, and these are the ruins, the foundation from Mount St. Vincent. I don't recommend coming up in this area because there's shady business happening.
They're doing drugs, I know it.
This is the blockhouse. It's blocked up. You can't get in it. Believe me, I've tried.
You can't go in there. That's still part of the Star Fort there in Central Park. You know, the Central Park is crazy. Do you know where they got their water to Central Park? I'll show you. Let's check this out. I got it from the Croton Dam. Croton Dam and Reservoir.
Greetings, folks. Dan here on a rainy Saturday afternoon to bring you a look at the current Croton Reservoir. Now, the old Croton Reservoir was supplying to the city about 95 million gallons worth of water by itself. But by 1885, that wasn't enough. Now, in 1885, a plan was drawn up to dam up the Bronx River, forming the Kensico Reservoir, which supplied for 20 million in 1891 when the city was started to suffer from a severe drought. By 1892, plans were presented to the Croton Aqueduct Commission by a fella, and I'm not making this up, by the name of Mr. Isaac Newton. Now, Mr. Newton said that they were losing about 200 million gallons of water a day that were just flowing right over the top of the old Croton Dam. And thus, the plan was formed to build the structure we're currently standing on.
That's the spillway here. That's the spillway on the left.
Dan here on a rainy...
It's supposed to spill over.
Anything you could still see, any piece of it that could still be found. There's lots of bits and pieces of the old aqueduct along the old aqueduct trail, but I wanted to see if I could find a piece of the dam. Turns out the dam itself is fully intact. Still about 34 feet of water. So despite the fact that it's still there, along with the gatehouse that went next to it, you can't actually see it anymore. Now, this facility was opened in 1906. The old Croton Aqueduct was finally decommissioned in 1955. And this still supplies water to 2 million gallons of water a day. But currently, at the rate that New York City uses water, on any given day, that is only about 10 to 30% of New York's total water usage.
That's pretty cool. The Croton Dam. Also known as the Murray Hill Reservoir, was an above-ground reservoir at 42nd Street and 5th Avenue. That's where that reservoir was, above ground reservoir right there. So give your regards to the old reservoir next time you're on 42nd Street. In the New York City borough of Manhattan, covered 4 acres holding 20 million gallons. It supplied the city with drinking water during the 1800s. Its massive 50-foot high granite walls, which presented a vaguely Egyptian style facade. The massive 50-foot high granite walls were 25 feet thick. Atop the walls was a public promenade where you could walk around it, and it offered panoramic views. Edgar Allan Poe, get the name of somebody to distract you out there who is a weirdo and a freak, enjoyed walking there. Here is the small picture of that massive walls. There's the inside of it, pretty thick. That's looking down on a granite staircase. A remnant of the reservoir can still be seen today at the foundation There it is. There's the foundation there. So the Croton Aqueduct itself was a large and complex water distribution system constructed for New York City between 1837 and 1842. The great aqueducts, which were among the first in the United States, carried water by gravity. They went to the store and got gravity buckets, and they carried that water by gravity 41 miles, 66 kilometers from the Croton River to Westchester County to reservoirs in Manhattan. It was built because local water resources had become polluted and inadequate for the growing population of the city. Although the aqueduct was largely superseded by the new Croton Aqueduct, which was built in 1890. The old Croton Aqueduct remained in service until 1955 and the Fu Manchu Mafia takeover. Here's a nice picture of the aqueducts that were interlapping and feeding the Croton Reservoir hundreds of miles away and supplying the water pressure for the island of Manhattan back in the day. So you take the Croton Dam from up here and they ran it all this way down over here. They ran it out this way and then onto the island here across the High Bridge. Then they had a receiving reservoir and then the Croton distributing reservoir. This is island here must be what we call New York City today, Manhattan. Very interesting picture right there. There's one of the Tower 18 on the old Croton Aqueduct. Worked until 1955. Then they had to do a reset of the history. So here's what we got working on the old Croton Aqueduct. John B. Jervis. So they had to go over these mountains and keep it straight and level because they wanted to get it from the Harlem River. They had to go 33 miles from Westchester. Started over here. Get that siphon going here, siphon pump, I guess. There's your Manhattan Hill. Looks like they had another siphon pump there. So it went down and then came back up on Asylum Hill. Here's your Aqueduct Bridge at 100th, 99th, and 98. There's another little holding tank for it to make, you have to get that so the siphon pump will work. Drop that thing over here to Murray Hill distributing reservoir. It is in the park. And everybody's happy. 45 miles. Got all kind of valleys it had to cross. There's your aqueduct going across the Harlem River. That's 33 miles from the Croton Dam. The Harlem River. George Fraser. Short Creek Raid. What the Short Creek Raid is an Arizona Department of Public Safety and Arizona National Guard action against Mormon fundamentalists, 1953, mass arrest of polygamists. They had to clean up that Mormon reputation, called out the Arizona National Guard. There they were. They're breeding children like crazy. Who knows what they were doing with them? White slaves. Had an insurrection. They didn't know they're just being bred to be passed out by polygamists. Who knows? I don't know what, my takeaway from that was it's probably pretty weird. Why would I want to care about Confederate engineers in the American Civil War? Something got me here. I'm glad it's short. Jefferson Davis summarized a widely held opinion of the value of West Point graduates in a report made to Congress. Nearly all great public works of the country, the river and harbor works, the lighthouses, and even public buildings have been directed by its graduates. Everything in this country was military. They were the pioneers, that's a military word, in the construction of railroad, and among the teachers of that art, and the great scientific works of the government have been chiefly conducted by them. The military service of its graduates have been ever more conspicuous than those in engineering and science. The fortifications, the improvements in ordnance and small arms, the conduct of the geographical and other scientific labors carried on in connection with the operation of troops equally attest to the character of the instruction imparted at West Point. So they broke it up there, said that's enough, man. Who are the pioneers? Is it really? Is that a military word? Pioneers. American pioneer. American pioneers were European American and African American settlers who migrated westward from the 13 colonies. Well, there were 15, and later United States to settle and develop in areas of North America. Now, where's all this stuff about them being pioneers and military? Johnny Appleseed, a pioneer? Montana, Mormon pioneers? Levitt, Ben Lilly. Well, let's look up sappers. A sapper, also called pioneer, a pioneer is a soldier employed to perform engineering and construction tasks. The term is in principle similar to sapper or combat engineer. Pioneers were originally part of the artillery branch of European armies. Subsequently, they formed part of the engineering branch, the logistic branch, part of the infantry, or even comprised a branch in their own right. Some pioneers at work. There's a head pioneer. He's got himself an axe right there. And don't tell me that he shouldn't be going, oh, wee, oh, 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 wee, oh, we're the workers. There's your British pioneer. Army people laying track. They have the assault pioneers. Get out there and fix the bridges, you know. Pioneers comes from the foot soldier, pignonier. That's originally from France, a foot soldier, your pioneer. So the pioneers did build the United States. Came in here with their kits and set up their. We're the pioneers. Need some Royal Pioneer Corps. You have to get the Maltese pioneers. Sappers. Look at, see, they're carrying axes. Traditionally sport large beards, wear leather aprons, carry axes. This is my ceremonial axe. Bombay, sappers and miners, military. Hey, we don't like your star fort. We got some sappers, some pioneers to fix you up. You like my hat? We're still dealing with those hats today. I'm going to zap this tree. Modern sapper equipment. My goodness. My goodness. What a day. Well, there's 3 hours. And if I've got to save some of these things for tonight, that's what we're going to have to do. So we'll close it right there. Come back tonight. Come back whenever you see the Lord has led us to some new information. Some new information like mud flood was Armageddon. And that's what I think. Mud flood was Armageddon. I'm never going to tell you anything else. Why would I? I'm just here trying to prove that I have your best interest at heart. Amen.